Erica Thompson was born on May 27, 1966. At 53, she lived alone in the 9200 block of Monroe Avenue in Brookfield, Illinois. It was there she raised her only child, Michael. Erica was described as a homebody who suffered from anxiety when she was anywhere other than work or home for very long. She was employed as a comptroller at Empire Hard Chrome, Inc., a Chicago-based company that produced chrome plating. In her spare time, she enjoyed crocheting, gardening, genealogical research, and computers. She loved her home and had spent a lot of time remodeling it and maintaining a beautiful backyard, something she was very good at, and it was that backyard where she found the most comfort. Her family and animals were also just as important, especially her son Michael. Unfortunately, she had been living with a trucker who suffered from mental health issues and had previously been arrested for discharging a firearm in a random parking lot. She feared this man, and eventually they broke up and he moved out. By September 2019, she resumed living alone, enjoying life when something went wrong. On the afternoon of September 25, 2019, she left work and was last seen on surveillance at 4:30 p.m., making a deposit at the First National Bank of Brookfield, near her home on Veterans Memorial Circle. The next morning, she never showed up to work, and because people knew she was reclusive, hated traveling, and also stuck to a routine, it immediately set off alarms. However, it would still take 6 days before she was reported missing on October 1, 2019, by her son Michael. At that point, police began knocking on every door in the surrounding area, and her family handed out missing person flyers at Veterans Memorial Circle. Investigators obtained cell phone data and determined it had traveled through several communities of Countryside, Hodgkins, McCook, Forest View, Summit, and Bridgeview early on September 26. When her home was searched, they found the back sliding glass door fully open, the air conditioning running on high, and the house dirty with molded dishes in the sink and next to her bed, which was very unlike her. She also had 2 beloved cats in the home that had gotten sick, possibly due to poisoning. Whether they were intentionally poisoned or ate something they shouldn't have is unclear. Most shocking was the deletion of Erica's outdoor home security camera footage. This points to someone familiar with the home and with her routine. Missing along with her was her 2014 dark purple Nissan Juke with Illinois license plate E273380. A day after being reported missing, her cell phone was found in a ditch in Springfield, Missouri, over a 7-hour drive southwest of Brookfield. Investigators believe the phone was likely thrown out of a moving vehicle. The police investigation so far has involved a number of agencies, including 2 suburban task forces and the FBI, which helped track cell phone data. The FBI's contribution led Brookfield police to hire an organization to help them search waterways in the vicinity of where her phone traveled early on September 26. Investigators also considered the possibility that Erica's vehicle had been dumped in one of the waterways near one of the communities where her phone had pinged. They used sonar to search through shipping canals and other bodies of water in the area. While they located dozens of submerged vehicles, none of them were Erica's missing Nissan. Then, a year after her disappearance, her car was located in a lake in southern Illinois. Evidence indicates that someone other than Erica was driving her car. Family members believe they know who's responsible, but no one has been charged. Cook County Crime Stoppers is offering up to a $1,000 cash reward for information that results in locating Erica. If you have any details, call the anonymous tip line at 1-800-535-STOP or email Brookfield Police at mcatpolice.org. Erica went missing on September 26, 2019, and as of September 2025, she remains missing and this case remains unsolved. Michael Anthony Womack Sr. was born on May 18, 1982. At 25, he lived in the 2900 block of Waterley Street in Alton, Illinois. He was engaged to be married and was the father of 5 young daughters and had a 6th child on the way, a son he planned to name Michel Womack Jr. Tragically, Michel disappeared 2 months before his son was born and never got to meet him. He was last seen in Alton between 1:30 and 2 p.m. on March 31, 2008. He missed a scheduled traffic court appearance 2 days later and didn't show up for his shift at Walmart in Wood River. His sister, Shatia, reported him missing the very next day on April 1st. Investigators determined the last call from his cell phone hit a tower near the former Godfrey Speedway in Godfrey, Illinois. It wasn't much help in tracking him because that cell phone tower picks up calls within a 20-mile radius. A couple of weeks after he was reported missing, his dark green 2004 Ford F-150 was found in the parking lot of the County Line Quick Stop in Cahokia, Illinois. The keys and his daughter's car seat were locked inside. As for the truck, it was undamaged and had reportedly been cleaned of any evidence. His family found the location of the vehicle strange because they said Michel didn't know anyone in that area and couldn't think of any reason he would have gone there. If you know anything about the disappearance of Michel Anthony Womack, no matter how small, please call the Alton Police Department at 618-463-3505. You can remain anonymous. Michel went missing on March 31, 2008, and as of September 2025, he has never been found, and this case remains unsolved. Taji Cross was born on January 19, 1990, in St. Louis, Missouri. She grew up in Texas and never knew her father. Her aunt and uncle, Mary and Henry Bolden, cared for her as an infant, and over the years, Taji spent time with different relatives and adoptive caregivers. In 2005, at the age of 15, she became pregnant, and while visiting a ministry for pregnant teens, met a nice couple, James and Sandy Niggemeyer. Sandy was also pregnant and coached her through labor. After Taji gave birth to baby Gracie, she put the baby up for adoption and moved in with James and Sandy for a time. Eventually, she moved back to Peoria, Illinois, and graduated from Richwoods High School. In 2010, she was finally living in her own apartment for the first time in her life and was described as bright, sweet, and kind at the nursing home she had worked at. At about 11 a.m. on the morning of April 27, 2010, her boyfriend, Lorenzo Burns, called 911 to report an emergency. When officers arrived, they found Taji dead in the bedroom and ruled her death a homicide. The scene looked methodical, even overkill. There were no signs of forced entry, meaning she likely knew her killer. It appeared she was the target since valuable items such as a laptop and TV were left untouched. After she was murdered, the killer thoroughly cleaned the entire apartment, including the living room, bathroom, and kitchen. In the bedroom, the bed was stripped, and those covers are still missing. Taji had deep red marks on her neck. Parts of her body had been wiped with bleach, and her fingertips had been removed. Outside, some of her clothing had been burned in a trash can. An autopsy determined she had been strangled to death about 12 hours before the 911 call, possibly as early as 9 p.m. the night before. Since the killer stayed around and cleaned up, it's possible her murder was premeditated. Her Aunt Mary told investigators that Taji once said she was afraid of a woman she saw as a romantic rival. Whether that matters here is still unknown. Investigators questioned her boyfriend and towed his car. However, he was released without arrest, and no suspect has been named publicly. While there aren't many clues in the case, investigators believe the killer may have worn a men's size 8.5 to 9 shoe, and the violence suggests the offender could have been scratched or otherwise injured during the attack. The bleach and removal of fingertips point to someone who understood how DNA could be used. Detectives believe someone saw or heard something late on April 26th or in the early hours of April 27th, 2010, at the Tiffany Point Apartments on West Tiffany Court. Maybe you heard arguing or a sudden commotion. Maybe you noticed an unfamiliar vehicle idling with its lights off. Maybe you saw someone making repeated trips in and out, carrying bedding or bags. Maybe you were told a story that never sat right, or you remember someone who came home smelling like bleach or with fresh scratches. If you know anything, no matter how small, please text a tip to 274-637-CRIMES and start your message with GPCS. For Taji and for the people who loved her, the Boldens, the Crosses, her brother Redmond, and many others, that one detail you've held on to could be the piece that finally brings accountability. Taji R. Cross was found murdered on April 27, 2010, and as of September 2025, this case remains unsolved. At the age of 56, Viola Brown-Martin was a mother of 3 living in Glenwood, Illinois. She was described as an outgoing, sweet, God-fearing woman who was very devoted to her family. She worked as an administrator at a medical facility and grew up in church in St. Clair, Illinois. Christmas of 2009 was a joyous one for many reasons. Not only had her daughter Angela tried out for American Idol for a 3rd time and made it to Hollywood, but she was also throwing a Christmas Day party for friends and family. Unfortunately, on that day of the party, a surprise snowstorm moved in. The snow was so heavy that her daughters, Annette and Angela, left the party early to head home. The next day, Viola was at her daughter Angela's home when she called her other daughter, Latrina, who was home in Crete recovering from surgery, to say she'd bring her a plate from dinner the night before. Viola told Latrina she loved her and that she would see her soon. Crete was only about a 15-minute drive away, but Viola never made it. 3 days later, on December 29th, when there was still no sign of her, her family reported her missing. The next day, her tan 1999 Chrysler Cirrus was found parked illegally in Dixmoor, near Thornton Road and Ashland Avenue, not far from a forest preserve, about 25 miles from her destination in Crete. Inside the car, they found her cell phone on the seat, but her keys were gone, and there was no sign of Viola. Police searched the area with dogs and ground crews, but found nothing. She never picked up her final paycheck and had no history of disappearing. She was a recovering drug addict, but had reportedly been clean for 5 years prior to her disappearance. Some have wondered whether the car's location could suggest a relapse or a dangerous encounter, but there's no confirmed evidence of either, and what truly happened remains unknown. 16 years later, her daughters, Latrina, Annette, and Angela, are still seeking answers. Sadly, this wasn't the only tragedy her family experienced. When Angela tried out for Season 7 of American Idol, she made it to Hollywood, but while there, her father was murdered, forcing her to withdraw. She tried again in Season 8, reached the top 50, and had to leave for a required court appearance over a traffic ticket. In Season 9, she advanced out of the Chicago auditions just as her mother went missing after Christmas. While in Hollywood, Angela used her airtime to plead for help. Unfortunately, she was eliminated before making it into the top 24. If you have any information about the disappearance of Viola Brown-Martin, please contact the Glenwood Police Department at 708-753-2420. She was last confirmed seen on December 26, 2009, and as of September 2025, she remains missing, and this case remains unsolved. On July 20th, 1990, a farmer found a woman's nude body in his field near the intersection of Lebanon Road and Troy O'Fallon Road in a rural area outside Troy, Illinois, just south of what's now the Castle Ridge Estates subdivision. It was estimated she had been deceased for several days to a week, was likely between 25 and 35 years old, and had auburn hair in a ponytail and a partial upper denture. Detectives processed the scene as a homicide investigation and discovered a pink t-shirt with blue palm trees, a bra, white Pebble Beach side buckle sandals, and a silver-colored ring set with a heart-shaped turquoise stone. Sketches were circulated, but no one recognized her, and she would remain a Jane Doe for the next 34 years. Later, a clay reconstruction was created of what she might look like. This led to a cab driver from Troy who recalled encountering a woman who looked a lot like the Jane Doe. He told detectives he met the woman in late June or July of 1990. He said she told him that she was from Decatur and had 2 children she had left in Troy with her mother. She also said that she had hitchhiked from Decatur to St. Louis, and from there to Troy. While it was a promising tip, it didn't lead to her identity. Then, in late 2024, using a sample of her DNA, Illinois State Police enlisted the help of Othram, who produced a profile for forensic genetic genealogy. With the help of genealogists and investigators, she was finally identified as Wynona Nadine Michel. The sheriff's office verified her identity using DNA comparison to relatives and announced it publicly on July 1, 2025. One of her surviving brothers, Frank Barnard, was present for that press conference. Wynona was born on August 23, 1959, in Los Angeles and went by Wendi. They learned that she was 30 years old when she was murdered. She was born in California, grew up in Tennessee, moved to Vero Beach, Florida around her 16th birthday in 1975, then returned to California to the Anderson-Shasta area between 1983 and 1984. Meanwhile, she became a mother to a son and a daughter, and was described as loving and fun. She was also said to be quite fond of animals. In April 1990, she and the children took a bus back to Nashville, where she left the boy and girl in the care of one of her brothers. The next month, she met her children for a short visit in Washington, D.C. While there, she was with an unknown truck driver. She left but never returned. As days turned into weeks, her family wasn't too concerned because she was known for disappearing for months at a time. But when those months turned into years, they began to realize she was probably never coming home. During that time, one of her children sadly passed away. Investigators at the time believed she'd been killed somewhere else before being dumped in the field in Troy. Her body was in an advanced state of decomposition, and what made identification even harder in 1990 was that she wasn't from the area. Thankfully, the coroner's office had kept several items that aided in her identification. This case is far from closed. If you know anything, anonymous tips can be made to Crime Stoppers at 866-371-TIPS. Wynona was found murdered on July 20th, 1990, and as of September 2025, this case remains unsolved.